Every master thief knows the golden rule of a heist. The plan is only flawless until the moment you execute it. You can case the bank for months, study the guards' patrol routes, and synchronize your watches down to the millisecond. But the second you step through those doors, reality takes over. In September 2023, Starbreeze Studios attempted the most critical heist of their entire corporate history, Payday 3. This wasn't just a video game launch, it was a rescue mission. It was supposed to be the flawless execution of a decade-long blueprint that would save the company from the brink of financial ruin. Instead, it became one of the most spectacular disasters in modern gaming history. A masterclass in how to completely dismantle a fiercely loyal community in a matter of days. This isn't just a story about broken servers or launch day bugs. It's a deeper investigation into fractured trust, corporate priorities, the dangers of the live service model, and a game that managed to lock its own players out of the vault. To understand the tragedy of Payday 3, you first have to understand Payday 2. For 10 years, Payday 2 was more than a successful game. It was an anomaly. Released in 2013, it started as a rough co-op shooter and slowly evolved into one of the most beloved multiplayer games of its generation. The game wasn't perfect, the engine was outdated, the animations were clunky, the AI was often ridiculous, and the endless stream of DLC became a joke across the gaming community. But Payday 2 had something more important than polish. It had soul. Players robbed banks, casinos, trains, and secret government facilities. The game constantly expanded, constantly evolved, and somehow kept its community alive for more than a decade. More importantly, Payday 2 became Starbreeze's lifeline. When several major investments failed and the company found itself in serious financial trouble, Payday 2 kept the lights on. The community continued buying DLC. The community continued playing. The community continued believing. For many players, Payday 3 wasn't simply a sequel. It was the future of everything they loved about Payday. When Payday 3 was finally revealed, the excitement was enormous. The developers promised a modern experience built on Unreal Engine. They promised improved gunplay. They promised deeper stealth systems. They promised a living New York City. They promised the next evolution of the franchise. On paper, everything looked perfect. The trailers looked impressive. The gameplay looked smoother. The future finally seemed within reach. But then launch day arrived, September 21st, 2023. The vault doors were supposed to open. Instead, everything collapsed. Payday 3 launched with an always online requirement. Even players who wanted to play alone were forced to connect to Starbreeze servers, and those servers immediately failed. Players sat in matchmaking queues for hours. Many couldn't enter a game at all. Error messages became more common than actual gameplay. The launch quickly turned into a public disaster. For nearly a week, countless players spent more time staring at menus than playing heists. The studio apologized. Executives explained the situation. But explanations didn't matter to players who had paid for a product they couldn't access. The always online system became the symbol of everything that was wrong with the launch. A feature intended to protect the game ended up preventing legitimate customers from playing it, and unfortunately the server problems were only the beginning. As players finally gained access to the game, another issue became obvious. The foundation itself felt incomplete. The progression system became one of the biggest complaints. In Payday 2, completing heists rewarded experience and progression naturally. In Payday 3, progression was heavily tied to specific challenges. Players often felt forced to play in unnatural ways just to gain levels. Instead of focusing on the heist, they were chasing checklists. The frustration grew quickly, and then players began noticing everything that was missing. No offline mode, no server browser, limited communication features, missing quality of life systems that players had enjoyed for years. Features that existed in Payday 2 simply weren't there. For many fans, Payday 3 didn't feel like an evolution. It felt like a step backward. The consequences were brutal. Players didn't simply stop playing Payday 3. Many returned directly to Payday 2. A game released more than 10 years earlier was suddenly outperforming its own sequel. The message from the community was impossible to ignore. Trust had been broken. The financial consequences followed quickly. Leadership changes were announced. Pressure increased inside the company. and questions began spreading throughout the industry. How could a studio with so much experience get things so wrong? Part of the answer may lie in a fundamental misunderstanding of what made Payday successful in the first place. Somewhere along the way, the focus shifted. The series stopped feeling like a chaotic co-op crime fantasy and started feeling like a carefully controlled live service product. Systems became more important than freedom, metrics became more important than fun, and player trust became collateral damage. The irony is painful. Payday was always about breaking rules, about freedom, about chaos, about pulling off impossible jobs with your friends. Yet Payday 3 often felt constrained by systems designed to control the player experience. Starbreeze eventually recognized the problem. The company launched Operation Medic Bug, an effort to rebuild trust and improve the game. Developers revoked progression, added requested features, improved gameplay systems, and slowly began repairing the damage. The team listened, the team adapted, the team worked to make Payday 3 better, but rebuilding trust is far more difficult than fixing bugs. In modern gaming, players have endless alternatives. When people leave, they don't always come back. And that may be the biggest challenge Payday 3 faces today. Payday 3 is not simply a story about technical failures, it is a story about expectations, trust, community, and the danger of forgetting what made a franchise successful in the first place. The game had the budget, the marketing, the technology, the fanbase, but success depends on more than systems and features. It depends on understanding the people who supported you from the beginning. Starbreeze forgot one important rule. In every successful heist, the crew comes first, and when the crew stops believing in the plan, the entire operation falls apart. As of today, Payday 3 continues fighting for a second chance, but whether it can fully recover remains one of the biggest unanswered questions in modern gaming, and that is a story that definitely did not go according to plan.